Cool.
Welcome to the show. Super excited. Super excited. I want to say right at the top of the show that I am a fan, but I'm not one of those fans who knows a lot. You know what I mean? Like, so I want to say in advance for all your fans that are listening, fuck you. I don't know everything about UFC.
Oh yeah, and trust me, they'll get all over your shit.
Right?
She doesn't know anything about that. Our fans are brutal.
I'm gonna admit it right up front. Like, go fuck yourself. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear it. I love the fights that I watch. Yeah. But
But that's cool.
There
Listen,
we go.
we have different types of fans in the fight business. There's the fans that are the hardcores, the ones that would say this chick has no idea what she's talking about. Then we got the fans that on a big fight like this weekend, they'll hear the buzz and they'll tune in. Right. The casual fan that'll, stop on FX or one of the other channels and watch the UFC. But we welcome all fans, no matter how hardcore or how often you pop in.
And I want to be the conduit for people who are interested, but maybe aren't watching every fight. Guys who are interested or women who are interested but want to know more about it, because I feel like there's like. I'll tell you really quickly a story about me, which is that the way I got into UFC was that I did a movie that was essentially, it was a really stunt heavy. And it was me and like 11 guys living in a hotel for 2 months. And we had a lot of time on our hands. We were in South Carolina with nothing to do. And all we did was watch UFC. Like every weekend we'd buy a fight. We'd get the hotel to buy a fight. We'd go to a bar. People had fights that they had recorded. We'd watch them back.
That's awesome.
Which was killer. And I learned a lot. But I feel like I'm the kind of fan where when I'm watching it, I'm into it, but I'm not, like, I don't know enough about it.
You're not engaged 24/7.
Yeah, and I need to be because, I love it. You'll watch like 10 fights will be awesome. You'll watch one fight and you'll be like, oh, the elbow to the head so many times. I need a hug.
Right. Well, you know what would really push you over? I mean, you watch it on TV and you like it. If you've ever get the opportunity to train with a real jiu-jitsu guy.
I would totally love to do that.
It would blow your mind. It's literally how I got involved in mixed martial arts. I came from boxing and I got introduced to the sport through jiu-jitsu. And it literally, it was like taking, I don't remember if it was the red or the blue pill in the Matrix, but it opened my eyes.
It was the red pill that opened your eyes.
The red pill opened my eyes to a whole new world.
Come to me for your nerd answers.
Yeah. I literally, after I took my first jiu-jitsu lesson, I was like, how the fuck have I walked around for 30 years and not known this?
Really?
That another human being could do this to you if you ended up on the ground.
Right.
It's so amazing. And the cool thing about it is it's not about power. It's not like I'm a man, you're a woman.
Right.
So if if we go to the ground together, it's about technique.
Yeah.
The reality is, you being a woman and you got a long body.
I have a reach, which I use to run away from people generally.
Well, it's actually, the long body is very good in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? And you catch a guy like me or anybody else in the move, it's your technique that's going to win, not me overpowering you with strength. And you could actually tap me out. You could break my arm. Ooh. You could choke me out. You being a woman can do that. That's the real cool thing. And most of the positions are the rape position.
Really?
Where you have the most submissions available to you
is when you're on the bottom?
Is when you're on the bottom in the rape position.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it in fighting, the rape position?
No, but it's it's called the guard.
Right.
Is what it's called, but it is the rape position. If a woman, it's a vulnerable position for a woman, but not one that knows jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
So if you know jiu-jitsu and you just get the average guy on the street, average, criminal Joe rapist guy,
right. Yeah, like 5'10", 5'8", 160,
guaranteed choke his ass out unconscious.
I have, Dana, a tiny little girl boner right now. I want to talk more about how you got into jiu-jitsu, but I want to go back to talk about who you were before UFC a little bit. You're awesome. You talk and you tell your story, which is great. But you never told it here, and I want to hear a little more about it.
Cool.
You were born in New England?
Yes, I was born in New England, the Boston area.
Yeah.
And we lived there till I was in about third grade, and then we moved out to Las Vegas. My mother was a nurse. I had a single mom who was a nurse, and they were paying nurses more here than anywhere else in the country, so we moved to Las Vegas.
And but you moved a lot. I mean, I feel like I read that you traveled, you went back and forth a lot. Or did you move to Vegas and stay here till you got?
Yeah, well, I was in Vegas for a long time, but being from the East Coast, I had a lot of relatives on the East Coast. I had family that lived in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, so I spent a lot of time on the East Coast growing up, too. So I was very fortunate in that I grew up in Vegas. Thank God, I'm glad that I grew up here. But I also was lucky enough to have a lot of East Coast influence, too.
Why do you say, thank God you grew up here?
Because everything that I am, I love the city of Las Vegas. You know, I'm one of these guys who's been fortunate enough to travel all over the world. You name the major city destination on this planet, and I have been there, with the exception of China, which I'm going in September.
Sweet.
And no matter where I am or how great it is, every time I'm like, fucking glad to be back in Vegas, man, because this is my city. This city doesn't sleep. There's always something to do 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's full of energy and excitement and fun, and I love it here.
Well, also it's a place where one can make oneself. I mean, you're the epitome of a self-made man in every way. I think this is a place where you can see opportunity and you can exploit it, and every city's not like that.
It's a very good point. The reality is that on the East Coast, there's a lot of old money. Mm-hmm. You don't see a lot of people break through on the East Coast and become, wealthy or it doesn't happen a lot. But on the West Coast, Los Angeles, Southern Cal, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens. Yeah. It happens here every day.
Did you fight a lot when you were a kid? Were you a good kid, or were you?
No, I was a bad kid. I was a bad kid in that I had, a single mom, and I was home alone a lot, and idle time and alone time is not a good thing.
Hands,
so I had a lot of parties at my house and hang out with friends. And Las Vegas, it's weird, but Las Vegas was one of these cities where you did fight a lot when you were growing up here.
Really?
It was like this school versus school thing. Like all the schools, there were a couple of schools that got along with each other, but other than that, all the schools fought with each other here.
Like organized scraps, like meet after school on the playground.
Yeah,
kind of thing?
Definitely meet at the playground or meet at the park. There was a lot of fighting here in Vegas growing up. Definitely.
Were you in the middle of it, or?
Yeah, I was in the middle of a lot of it. Like crazy stuff. One time, there was a school. I went to Bishop Gorman. Mm-hmm. I got kicked out of that school twice, but that's where I went to high school here. And then I went to, there was a school called Valley. It's still here, Valley. And we got into this huge fight one night out in front of my house with a couple of guys from Valley. Next thing you know, every kid from the school was in my front yard trying to get into my house and kill me. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I was probably 14.
Okay, so what are you thinking at this point? First of all, how many people do you have on your side?
There was only like 4 of us in my house.
And there's
like every dude from, and girls too. I mean, like half of Valley High School was out on my front lawn, and I was on the roof. And we were throwing like bricks at them and stuff from the roof.
So what?
That kind of crazy stuff.
So what? And what are you thinking at this point? Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, eventually, this is probably 1:30 in the morning. So eventually, the neighbors called the police, and the police came and got
there's
everybody.
A mob of angry teens.
But the next night, they showed up at my house again. The next night, which was a Sunday night, and literally walked in my front door. Yeah. There was like 15 dudes, 15 of like the toughest dudes from Valley, standing in my front yard, because I had just gotten in a fight earlier that night with one of their friends.
Oh my God!
And he came in too the next night, and he had remember the old gargoyle sunglasses? He had the gargoyle sunglasses off, and he took off his glasses, and he's like, "Look what you did to my face!"
Oh shit!
And I was like, I'm really sorry about that. I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm about to be beat to death in my own living room right now.
In retrospect, it was a bad life choice.
I was very, very polite and nice that night. A little different than the night before.
What? That's crazy, because I'm like, I always feel like the way that we think about fights, either kind of in fiction, like in films or television, or the way you think about it, even in the context of the way you live your life now, is like, we're going to fight for this period of time. There's going to be a winner. Everybody walks away. And if we're going to fight again, it's going to be under circumscribed. But for dudes to just they know where you live. They're just going to keep coming back. So what happened?
Yeah, basically that night, the way that, like I said, I wasn't as tough as I was the night before. I was very polite and nice that night. I was like, listen, guys, let's all be friends. And so I ended up getting them out of my house. But basically, one of the guys says to me, he says, let me tell you what's going to happen. If we ever see you outside, we're going to beat the living shit out of you. And
then what did you do for the next?
Cool, man. I'll never leave the house.
Right,
for the next
that's
6
it.
months. I'm
Homeschool.
good. So they left, and it was all good. I know I didn't ever fight one of those guys again until years later. After I graduated high school, I got into a fight with one of those guys again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And one of the local places here in Las Vegas.
Was it a rematch?
That was crazy. It was one of those fights that fights.
Was it Valley Gorman
broken up? No, it was only. I had me and another guy with me. He's still one of my best friends today. He's here today for the fight. But yeah, it was me and him against like 3 or 4 of the other guys, and it's just one of those fights that starts happening. Everybody's getting hit, and then it gets broken up. The police came, and But Vegas used to be when I was growing up here in the '80s. Man, there were a lot of fights here.
Wow.
A lot of fights.
That also feels. I mean, I think you and I are around like in a window of the same age. It feels like a lost era, because when I was growing up, yeah, you fought. I mean, occasionally a kid got stabbed. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
Where'd
normally,
you grow up?
I grew up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Which sounds like it might be a little like a little vegan and floral, but there were rough parts of it too. And I just remember like, oh, so and so got in a fight, or there's a fight. But then I remember like when my sister was growing up, not like 5-10 years later, people just got shot.
Right.
So it's interesting that there was an era where kids just fought and you walked away.
There were times I've seen crazy stuff like kids get hit with bats and people pull out crowbars and things like that. But people didn't get shot and stabbed around here. I'm telling you, you ask anybody who grew up in the 80s here, school versus school, there were crazy fights, like tons of crazy fights, but there were never any stabbings or shootings.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Right.
I mean, not like you're ever advocating for people to be like street fighting, but at least you can get up and walk away generally from a street fight. Yeah, you know what I mean?
People weren't getting murdered.
Yeah, exactly. So you're a brawler coming up.
Yeah.
And but you're a street brawler. I mean, you're a kid, and you're like, what? And you get thrown out of school twice. Yeah. Did you finish school here? Did you finish school?
I actually graduated from school in Herman, Maine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm the bad kid, single parent, gets shipped off to their grandparents.
Yeah, you're out here sending you to the woods.
Yeah. We never sent you to the woods.
Bears.
Exactly. Good luck getting into trouble up there.
Exactly. Yeah. Knock yourself out, kid. Have some cranberries.
Exactly.
So you finish school up there.
Yep.
Do you straighten out a little bit? Do you sort things out?
Yeah, I still had a period. I think there's this period that a lot of young people go through when you're partying and you're going to clubs, and back then it was bars, so there weren't really any clubs back then.
Right.
So you're going to the bars and you're going out, you're doing the things that you do when you're young. That's one of the things about growing up in Vegas when I did in the 80s. There was nothing here for kids then.
That's the other thing. I'm so surprised that there was so much fighting, although now in retrospect it makes sense. There was nothing to do.
Nothing to do. There was nothing here.
Yeah.
But by the time I was 21 and legal to drink, I was done with drinking.
Right, yeah. You and I had that in common. By the time I got to college, I was like, ugh, somebody threw up. What an amateur.
Exactly. I was so over it.
all over again.
By the time I finally got my license, and they were like, yeah, you're ready. You can go out in the real world and drink now. I was like, yeah, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm over the whole drinking thing.
Yeah.
I quit drinking when I was about, I think I was 22. I quit drinking, and I didn't drink for years. The thing that used to hit me about drinking, and I was always a pretty motivated person in that, I didn't like to waste time.
Yes.
Wasting time and drinking is such a waste of time. It's like you go out and you drink let's say you go out Friday night. Saturday's ruined.
That's the thing. It's not the time you spend drinking that is the waste. It's how it blows out everything that happens afterwards.
And you're not yourself again till late Sunday. Mm-hmm. It's time to go back to work. And I just, when I quit drinking, I used to say I quit drinking and started thinking. This is what I always used to say. I was a rapper. I was a rapper. You didn't know it, but now you learn something else. So I had so much more energy and time to focus on positive things. The other thing about drinking, nothing positive comes out of drinking.
No.
You never go out and get wasted and then wake up the next day and go, thank God I went out last night. That was a really good idea.
Right.
Lots of positive things came out of last night.
I mean,
it's always
there's
negative.
There's a line, though. I always feel like it's like a bell curve. Like the first drink or two, you're bonding with your friends, you're laughing, you're having a good time. It's when you hit the peak of that bell curve, you start sliding down the other side.
True.
You're like, but no one ever stops at like,
no,
we're all hugging and
because you're having fun.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you're exactly right. You nailed it. As you start to peak and you're like, woohoo, and you talk and you're having fun and everything else, and then it just goes straight downhill from
vertical,
there.
Just like a roller coaster. And you're right. You always think, 2 drinks is good, 5 drinks is better. But you know what? 2 drinks is it. That's it.
It's true.
Yeah. I have been talking about, I talk about drinking a lot on my show, and because I was a spirits enthusiast for a long time, and I've just started to cut back because, like you said, it's like I feel like I would be so much more effective.
Yeah.
In my life, if I could get up on time every day and get shit done.
It's true.
Yeah.
And you do. And when you really start, it's about focus.
Yeah.
And when you really start to focus on something you want to do, I don't give a shit what it is.
Yeah.
It's like me getting into the fight business. It's like I was one of these guys, like millions of fans, that are involved in fighting. And like I wanted to be involved in fighting.
Right. You just loved fighting from the outside.
Loved it. Loved the sport. And I had a good job. I've told this story a million times. I had a great job. I was, when you're a kid, you're 18, 19 years old, you work these odd jobs to make money and pay your rent and everything. The two real serious jobs I had as a kid, I worked for a paving company. And
you're in Boston at this point?
Outside of Boston, yeah. So I graduated high school in Maine, came back to Vegas for a little while. Same shit going on here.
Right.
Drinking,
nothing. And
same
also
people
no
doing
jobs,
the same
really
shit.
like the same.
Nothing. Everything was the same. I said, I got to get out of here. I went on vacation to Boston.
Okay.
And then never came back. I went on vacation. And I stayed there. I got a job.
You look like a Boston kid.
Yeah.
You got the look and the vibe of a Southie. And so it's good. It's like you walk in and like, Boston Southie. Yeah.
That's funny. So I started working for this paving company. Worst job I've ever had in that it's hard work. It is grueling hard work.
And miserable.
Hot as hell. I worked for these lunatic Italian guys. These guys were crazy, man. They used to come in screaming, yelling, throwing stuff around, but they used to fire you up, and they had this very good ability to make you want to do better, to make you want, you were paving roads, you were running wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
But they made you want to do it. They made you want to do it better than everybody else was doing
and just
it.
To show everybody, right? Yeah.
Which is something that I find is a positive. Excuse me, that I took away from that job. Then I worked in the hotel business, and I used to be a bellman. And I was making, you make $65,000, $70,000 a year.
Wow, as a bellman.
Oh, yeah, all cash, too.
Right.
All cash.
Wow. I'm going to tip less.
Great.
I always feel bad. I'm like, this kid, he's working for tips and making nothing.
Yeah, I just blew it for everybody.
Sleeping
for every
on his buddy's couch.
bellman all over the country is going to want to kill me now. But they make good money. They make damn good money.
It's hard work, though. People are shitty to those guys, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And you get great benefits and everything else. It is the greatest job you can ever have when you're a young guy or a guy in college, or if you decide that that's your lifelong profession, that's what you want to do.
Right.
People all have different
see everything
ambitions.
Probably in a hotel, too.
But the problem is that it's one of those jobs like I'm 19 and I make that kind of money and that's my thing. I'm 52. And it's the same exact story.
Right.
And you're doing the same. But it was never my thing. As good of a job as it was, and when you work at the right place, everything's great. It's just, I knew that I wanted to be in the fight business, and I didn't give a shit if I ever made a dime doing it.
Right.
It was what made me happy.
Yeah.
When I got out of bed every day, that's what I wanted to do.
So let's talk about that. So you're in Boston, you're working these two jobs, and you're watching fights? Because one thing I'm really curious about, and we're going to get into it right after this, is people constantly make the comparison between MMA, UFC, and boxing.
Yep.
And so I'm assuming when you were in your 20s, when you're 18, 19, 20, UFC wasn't a thing yet, was it?
No. UFC 1 happened when I was in Boston.
Was it 97 or was it 92?
No, yeah, it was 93.
Okay, all right.
And it happened in when I was living in Boston, and I was involved in fighting at that time. And I remember everybody was talking about this no rules fight was going to happen.
Right.
There were no rules, no time limits, no
People
gloves.
Going crazy.
And everybody was like, "There's no fucking way. It's just that makes no sense."
Yeah.
It's cool if that's going to happen, but I don't believe it.
Right, and boxing's so technical, right? So technical.
Right.
You can't even imagine a fight like that. All of a sudden, someone's pulling someone's hair out. It just seems like it's not even.
This was a styles thing.
Right.
This was. Can a kung fu fighter beat a karate guy?
Yeah.
Can a boxer beat a wrestler? This was really going to happen. Like all these different styles were going to clash.
Right.
And there were no rules, no time limits, and nothing. And I remember that night, at that time, I was doing this boxing program with my partner Peter over at the Beacon Hill Athletic Club. That's where we were, the Beacon Hill Athletic Club. And they had like a martial arts program in that club. And the buzz was that this martial arts show was going to fucking happen. And everybody was like, no way.
Yeah.
This is fucking crazy. So we all went to this dude's house one night and we watched the UFC, the first UFC. One of the head martial arts trainers from the Beacon Hill Athletic Club.
And it was pay-per-view, that first fight.
Pay-per-view, yeah. And we were like, holy fucking shit, that just happened. That really happened, and it was cool, you know?
So, because first of all, that conversation is like every 8th grade kid, and then probably every dude in a bar. That's right. Could a Muay Thai guy beat a traditional boxer? Could karate beat, kung fu? Whatever it is, right? Everybody has that argument, right?
Yeah.
But did that first fight answer that question? Because
it was like Bloodsport the movie, like the Kumite, like the Kumite was going to happen. You know what I mean? That's what it was like. And yeah, I mean, it did. Jiu-jitsu won.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu was the dominant martial art because this family from Brazil knew it. Nobody else did.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But that first show needed to happen. That first show was the evolution of martial arts. Martial arts hasn't evolved in over 10,000 years. It's been exactly the same. By these styles clashing for this first time on such a huge platform, everybody started to train in all these different martial arts, and that's really how the evolution of the sport began.
Do you feel like fighters saw in that first context, here are the weaknesses in my style, and this other style will fill in those gaps?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So you see this first fight, all right? And because I'm just so curious. I mean, you know, and I want to say this in the best. I'm going to present this in the best possible light. You're just a dude who works at a hotel in Boston, and you love fighting. I mean, that's who you are right now at this point in your life. You watch this fight, and is that the moment that kind of radicalizes you, or do a bunch of other things happen between then and when? I mean, obviously, time passes between you when you come to convince your friends to go and buy this kind of...
Yeah, no, this was... So after I watched that first one, it's not like I'm some huge UFC fan. I'm a diehard boxing guy.
Yeah, okay.
I love boxing. And that thing happened, and you're like, a real boxer would kill those guys, and, you know, all that stuff. I went through all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't until, I think, 1998.
And you're training people now? Are you moving into training at this time?
I train, businessmen, women...
Mainly
boxers.
in boxing.
I train fighters, everybody, in boxing.
In traditional boxing techniques, okay.
So in 1998, I'm at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas. Me and my partner, Frank Fertitta, are there. Uh-huh. We're hanging out. And,
this is the guy you've grown up with, or how did you guys meet?
I grew up with the Fertitta brothers,
okay.
So we're hanging out, and this guy, John Lewis, walks by. Uh-huh. And he had fought in the UFC before. And Frank's like, oh, that's one of those Ultimate Fighter guys.
Yeah.
And I said, and I knew John Lewis.
Yeah.
And I said, that is him, and that's them, whatever we're talking. He's like, Frank's like, I've always wanted to learn the ground game.
Right.
Always wanted to try jiu-jitsu. And I said, let's go talk to him. So we walk over, we talk to him, we set up an appointment for Monday to train with the guy. So we tell his brother, my other friend, partner Lorenzo Fertitta, we're going to train with this guy on Monday. Come on over and train with us.
Yeah.
We take that first lesson, and the rest is history, man. I mean,
really?
It opened my eyes to a whole new world, and it showed me how blind I was by just traditional boxing.
Right. Is that what you guys call it in UFC, the ground game?
Yeah, the ground game.
I love that. Yeah, because a lot of times fights don't really get that exciting until guys hit the ground, or at least that's when the meaningful shit happens in a fight.
You know, what's happened is when we first bought this company and we got involved in this sport, we were really like, the hardest part of educating people was going to be the ground game, because in America we come from this John Wayne culture where you never hit a man when he's down. That's un-American, you know. John Wayne would hit a guy.
Right. He drops. That's it. It's over.
And then he'd pick him back up and stand him up and he'd hit him again. Because you don't jump on the guy and start pounding him. That's totally un-American. So, educating the not just the country, but the world in the ground game. But it happened a lot faster than I thought it would.
In terms of people falling in love with the sport.
Yeah.
So I don't want to cover ground that has been covered before, because it has been covered. But I do want to hear really quickly about, you train with John Lewis and then you turn around. How do you persuade your friends to drop $2 million on the UFC?
$2 million. So we
guys, what do you have? How much do you have in your wallet? What do you got?
No, basically what happened was, so I get involved in this thing pretty heavy. I start managing guys and getting into the business. And
did you have to change the way you approached your training because you have a traditional boxing background?
Well, I wasn't training these guys.
Yeah,
there were guys like Tito and some guys that I'd work hands with, like punching.
But you were just managing, not training.
Managing,
okay,
exactly.
Okay.
I started managing some of these guys, and two of the guys that I manage are Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell.
Yeah,
and through the negotiations of their contracts over the next year, I become pretty close to the owner of the UFC, and I felt like we built this. I'm a manager and he's the owner. It's not like this guy loves me.
Yeah.
I don't think Bob Meyerowitz was really, I was his best friend or anything. But I felt like we had built this mutual respect for each other, and that I felt like I started asking questions, and I had heard that the UFC was in trouble.
Right.
And he was either looking for an investor or possibly selling. So when I found out, I went to the Fertitta brothers and I said, listen, I think we can, because at the time, me and Lorenzo were talking about getting involved in boxing together anyway.
Yeah.
So I heard that this thing was in trouble and might be for sale. So I called these guys. They were in Miami at the time. And I said, hey, listen, I think the UFC might be able to buy this thing. We should really look at this and think about it. A month later, we own the company.
Yeah. So those guys moved quickly. I mean, it made sense from the beginning. And also, in retrospect, it was a bargain. It was a lot of money up front, but it was a bargain.
Absolutely. Well, when people look at it and say, God, you only paid $2 million for this thing, but we invested $44 million into it before it turned around and started making money.
Right.
So,
and those early, we're going to jump ahead and come back. In those early years, you had a lot of work to do.
A lot of
One of the reasons why they were selling it was that it was
dead.
in shambles.
It was dead. It was bankrupt, and the thing wasn't going to go anywhere.
Why do you think the early iteration of UFC wasn't working?
Well, it's not that it wasn't working, but the guy Bob Meyerowitz, who ran it before us, and to his credit, you got to understand, in a million years, this guy never thought he was creating a sport.
Right.
He was putting on these pay-per-view, these renegade,
right?
these renegade pay-per-views, and basically everybody that told him, you can't do this, you can't do that, whether it was the government or states sanctioning it, he said, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'll do what I want to do. If you don't, I'll go down to Puerto Rico and do this thing. I'll go over to Alabama where you.
It's a right to fight state, whatever it is. Yeah.
There's this. It's funny because I went through this shit recently with the internet and stuff. But there's these fuckheads on the internet who think that
the internet is essentially chock-a-block of
it's
fuckheads.
where all the fucking geniuses live, right? But they have this thing where they think, because I said this once before, and they started saying, oh, he's fucking. I said, you can't fucking fight the government.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I don't care how fucking cool you think you are sitting in your mom's basement on your fucking keyboard and all this other shit. Go try to fight the fucking government,
yeah, exactly.
man. And that's basically
Go nuts, buddy.
what happened to Bob Meyerowitz,
Yeah.
He said, fuck you to the government, and the government said, no, we're going to fuck
you back.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
much
what happened.
Bigger. Yeah. So he just was in a position where, because I remember there was a time where like politicians were trying to write laws about like outlawing essentially that style of fighting, and
that's what was happening in some places. It was actually being, there were laws being written against it.
Right.
And really all it was a lot of misinformation and a lot of bridges burned.
Right. I mean, look, there's something to be said for anybody who likes fighting generally about the concept of a no holds barred fight. You know what I mean? It's very sexy. You know what I mean? It's very Thunderdome.
Yeah.
But the thing that you guys were able to do was to envision a future where this was a mainstream sport.
Right.
Because the flop side of no holds barred is essentially whatever skill you have to bring to bear on this fight, bring it. And that's not biting and hair pulling or whatever guys thought the fight was, nut punching, taint punching, whatever people imagined it.
Right.
It's like, we're going to get the best guys in here to do their worst. You know what I mean?
And that's what happened. What happened was, as we got into this thing and we really saw what it was, when I say that, I mean the sport, the athletes themselves, the type of people they were, and how hard they trained, and what type of athletes they really were. As we started to look at this thing and we really dove into it, we said, are we that fucking different than everybody else in the world?
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? I think that everybody presented the right way. This many people want to see a freak show.
Yeah.
This many people want to see a real sport.
Yeah.
With real athletes.
Yeah.
So done the right way and presented the right way, this thing could be fucking huge.
But how long did it take you to see what you had to do? Because you're saying you guys sunk $44 million into this thing.
We knew when we bought it.
Yeah, you knew right away.
We knew when we bought it what we needed to do and what had to be done. We just didn't think. We thought the key to the survival was getting it back on pay-per-view.
Right.
Understand, this thing was so bad and had such a bad stigma, and so many bridges had been burned. This wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. Porn is on pay-per-view. The UFC was not allowed on pay-per-view. That's how bad it was.
Totally.
Right?
Now, how did you immediately, because I know there's been an evolution in rules over the years, but did you immediately instigate a change in rules, like right from the very beginning?
Yep. We sat down and we did what was called the unified rules. And what it means is in boxing, all the boxing that happens in this country is regulated by the athletic commissions in each state. So what we did is we tried to get all the guys together from each state and come up on a unified set of rules that everybody would follow. Because what we really wanted to do was create a sport.
Right.
And to create a sport, everybody has to play by the same rules all over the world.
And not just the fighters, not just the people inside the sport, but the viewers need to understand the sport.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the game of soccer we play here in the United States is the same game that's played all over the world.
Absolutely.
Which is probably the best, example I could give you because
there aren't any other international sports.
Exactly.
American football, American baseball, all the other sports. Even boxing. I mean, that's one thing I feel like I was really remarking on when I was learning a little bit more about UFC is that there are international boxing stars, but generally that's an American sport. Guys come in. UFC is like so much more international than boxing.
Let me put it to you this way. This Saturday is the biggest fight in UFC history.
Is it? This is 148?
Yeah, 148. Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva is the most anticipated fight we've ever had, and it is the biggest fight on all accounts. Biggest gate in the United States. We broke every record leading up to this week as far as how we gauge how big a fight is going to be.
Just like buys,
shattering records. Pre-buys, amount of traffic to the website, amount of views to the press conference. I mean, the press conference alone that we did on Tuesday, 700,000 more people watched this press conference than any other press conference we've ever done.
That's crazy.
700,000. It's not done yet. It's not even Saturday yet. The number's still ticking as we're speaking right now. So this is
it the card?
It's that fight.
Okay.
It's Silva versus Sonnen. Okay. That's the fight but my point to this whole rant that I'm on right now is basically this weekend I have a Brazilian fighting an American and the whole world gives a shit.
Right.
Not just Brazilian, the whole world wants to see this fight.
Yeah. It's incredible. So I was talking with my mother because my mother's here this weekend. And she's old school, East Coast. I grew up watching the old fights, Frazier and Ali and, Foreman. Those are the fights I grew up on,
Me too.
Spinks, you know what I mean? I remember being 6-7 years old in front of the TV with my dad.
I had a Michael Spinks t-shirt on last week. Me too.
Rock and roll. That's awesome. And I feel like when I started to love boxing was when I started to understand it technically, which is why I so appreciate the concept that everybody needs to understand the rules of boxing. If you just see people punching each other and you don't know how it works, it doesn't mean anything to you.
I agree.
My mother said, "Oh, UFC is so violent." Of course, my mother does not sound like an old white lady. I don't know why I made her that, but
that's funny.
And what I said to her is actually UFC, in my opinion, and I want to hear if this is what you think. And my sister agrees with me, is less violent than traditional boxing because there are so many ways to win a fight other than just punching a guy in the head until he passes out.
Yep.
Is that how you see UFC? I feel like it's technically more complex than traditional boxing.
You're dead on. And more than that, to go even further than what you've said, is in the almost 20-year history of the UFC, even back in the crazy days when there were no rules and no time limits, there has never been a death or serious injury in the history of the UFC.
Really?
Almost 20 years. Cheerleading can't say that.
Yeah, holy.
You know what I
mean? Pee-wee soccer can't say that. I mean, those guys are having head injuries. And
yep. And the reality is that this sport is much safer than people think it is. And these athletes are the complete opposite of who they think they are.
Right. So let's talk about that because that was one of the things that I really wanted to ask you about. I feel like the athleticism of an MMA athlete is much more well-rounded than a traditional boxer. But you trained traditional. You've worked in both fields. Do you see that, or are they evenly matched?
Think about this. In this sport, you have to be well versed in boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, wrestling. I mean, you have to be well versed in every martial art. On top of that, you also have to do your cardiovascular training and your strength training. These guys are the best conditioned athletes in the world. And when you talk about technical, the sport is so technical. It's unbelievable. But the other thing about these fighters and this is something that I always say about boxing, and I'm not knocking it. It's just a fact. Every guy in boxing has the same exact story. I came from the mean streets of such and such. If it wasn't for boxing, I'd be dead or in jail.
Yeah.
That's every guy's story. 90-something% of these guys in the UFC have graduated from college.
Is that
that's
true?
That's how
Wow.
they got into this, was through wrestling. Or if you think about martial arts,
Right.
if your parents put you into martial arts when you were a kid, you came from a damn good family.
Right.
Because martial arts isn't cheap.
Yeah.
It's expensive to get involved in martial arts.
It's a different mental discipline too, I feel like, than boxing.
No,
right?
absolutely. No doubt about it. And in boxing, you got into boxing because you were in some Get Kids Off the Street program.
Right.
Where you were either going to go to prison or you were going to box.
Right.
You know, and that's just the truth. And that's why, all these guys' stories, we have all these different characters, and they're all real. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the WWE, when they fabricate these guys with these, with these attitudes or these shticks or whatever, the cool thing about the UFC is all these characters are absolutely real.
Right. You guys have done a lot of, you've acquired a lot of other fighting,
Companies,
yeah. Has that been a part of your strategy? Because you've even pulled guys in who are like over it with WWE or WWF or a bunch of other. Has part of the strategy been we're just going to consume every competitive fighting entity until they're all gone?
That was never the intent. But what started to happen is as we became more and more successful, everybody who could rub two nickels together ran out and threw three letters together and bought a cage and tried to, but as we continued to grow, these guys were all going out of business.
Right.
Is what happened.
Right.
All these other companies were failing. And what they do is when you own a business like this, you have a bunch of guys under contract. Mm-hmm. So as we continue to grow, if we had a company that was going out of business and we were interested in two or three of their key guys, it was worth buying the company just to get the contracts. Yeah, so it was more about these guys were going out of business, and in the fight promotion world, it's an ugly business. There's a lot of ugly things that happen, and a lot of these fighters get screwed and end up in these contracts that they're stuck to, whether the fight company fails or
and then they can't
succeeds.
fight.
And so they're sitting on the shelf. Ugh. So we go in, we consume this company, and we take those contracts.
Do you guys control? How do you? Okay. How many fights are happening this weekend? There's essentially two co-main
and main event, but there's going to be 10 fights this weekend.
Okay.
Everybody that bought a ticket or is buying the pay-per-view cares about every single fight, including the first one of the night.
Right. And is that very different than boxing?
Very different. In boxing, nobody shows up till the main event.
Right.
For the earlier fights, you could shoot a cannon off in that place and not hit anybody.
Right.
When the main event starts, the place piles in and fills up.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the people are so much more excited about the quote unquote the undercard?
Because we put together great fights always. See, one of the things that being a big boxing fan when I was growing up, I took all the things that I thought boxing did right and used it, and took all the things that I thought boxing did wrong and changed it.
Right.
And we build in boxing. It's very easy to get a guy to 34-0 with 33 knockouts.
Right.
It's not in mixed martial arts. These guys fight the absolute best. If you're in the UFC, whether you're the first fight of the night or the last fight of the night, you're fighting the best fighters in the world.
In that class.
Yeah, so you don't want to miss a fight because every fight is good.
Every fight's going to be great. Sometimes some of the undercard, are better sometimes than the main events if somebody taps out early. I remember watching a fight a couple of years ago where, I don't remember who it was. It was a really big guy, and he got trounced by the really tiny guy. Fuck, I wish I could remember it. The guy was huge. He was like 6'6", and then he fought a guy that was like 5'10", and the little 5'10" guy beat the shit out of him. But that fight was over quickly, and we ended up watching, they ended up going back to some of the earlier fights that lasted a little longer.
Right. Yeah, but that's how it works. It works like that. It's just, that's what I was telling you earlier. It doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. This sport is all about technique.
Right.
In jiu-jitsu, you take a woman, I know you have that thing at the end of every show that you do, your most embarrassing moments in your life and all this. Well, I wouldn't say this is one of my most embarrassing moments, but this is one that Chuck Liddell loves to bust my balls about. This is during the time when I was hardcore.
Yeah.
I was hardcore doing jiu-jitsu, and I was totally into it and everything else. There's this jiu-jitsu black belt woman named Kathy Brothers, and she came down and she was training with us, and she popped my knee. She caught me in a knee bar. And she's a black belt, so she knows she's got me. I know she's got me. Right. So I think she's going to let me off the hook, and I'm not going to have to tap to her. So she's like, fuck that shit. She cranked my knee and popped my knee. Yeah. And I was screaming and fucking tapping. And, he loves to bust my balls that a woman, pop my knee.
Your knee.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
A woman
it's technique.
will do some serious damage to a man if she knows jiu-jitsu.
Right. And then it's also it's strategy. It's not brute force. It's like, I'm going to come in and assess this other fighter, assess their strengths and weaknesses, and get in there and use
technique. And you make those mistakes early on because of your male ego.
Yeah.
Because there was another girl that I was rolling with one time in one of the classes, and she was a pretty girl, you know, and she caught me in what's called the triangle. And I'm like, oh, how cute. She's got me in the triangle. She starts cranking this thing, and I had to fucking tap.
Yeah.
And my neck was fucked up for like 3 weeks.
Triangles under your arm, around your neck.
Yeah,
that one?
the legs. And I couldn't turn my head this way or that way. But
brutal,
it's not cute when you're rolling with a woman or a man or anything else. So like one of the things, all the homophobics in this world, when they see two guys grappling, the first thing that pops into their mind is, oh, that's gay.
Yeah.
Trust me. There's nothing. There's nothing unmanly about grappling.
Right.
And whether you're rolling with a man or a woman, you better be on your game, and you better be ready to tap when you get caught.
Right.
Which is one of the safe things about the sport too.
Is that you can tap out before you get broken.
Before damage happens to you.
Okay, so let's talk about injuries really quick, because that's another thing when I was having this conversation with my mother was about the fact that I think guys also can tap out before they get broken. You know what I mean? They can essentially say, either this fighter is a better fighter than me, or at this moment I've been bested, right? And they can choose to end the fight, which is something almost never happens in boxing. I've never seen it. I'm sure it's happened where a boxer says, I don't want to fight anymore. They'll go 15 rounds and be bleeding out of every orifice. You know what I mean? And the fight will keep going unless the judges shut it down.
Let me put it to you this way. Oh, God, what's his name? Roberto Duran. No Mas. Remember No Mas? It's one of the most famous things.
Yeah.
When he said, no more, was ridiculed.
Forever. For
the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Because he felt he had had enough.
Yeah. Which is almost the mature, smart thing to say. I'm not gonna take a beating.
How about I don't die?
Yeah, and I'm an athlete. First, I don't want to die, permanent damage.
How about I live to fight another day?
In my career, any and all of that stuff, right? Yep. And because of that, I feel like there's longevity in UFC that you don't have in other fighting sports, or specifically you don't have in boxing. Because I just was looking that, and I might get this wrong, Tito Ortiz was one of and Chuck are like two of the first people that you managed, right?
Yeah.
And they're two of the earliest guys from your tenure at UFC.
Exactly.
So, and I read, and I may be wrong, that Tito's first fight was in 1997.
Yeah,
that's Is he still fighting now?
Yep. This will be his last fight this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Is his last fight.
So that is a 15, 16 years.
Is that amazing?
That's crazy. Most boxers, I feel like, if they have 5, 8 years of real competitive fighting. Now, I'm not talking about when they're early and they're the golden gloves, all that bullshit, but when they get into the sport.
You said it. A lot of guys come out of the amateur shot.
Yeah.
They've been fighting since their parents put them in there when they were little kids. Right. Or they get into this program.
And they're scrambled already.
By the time they're done with the amateurs.
Yeah. Right? Broken.
Yeah. It's just to stand in front of somebody and just take punches for years.
To the head, to over and over again. Because I feel like that is really that's the meat and potatoes of boxing. Hit this guy in the face until blood pools inside his cranium and he falls to the ground.
Yeah, I hit him. I either win. There's two ways to win. I either hit you in the head more times than you hit me in the head.
Yeah.
Or I hit you so hard that I knock you unconscious.
Yeah.
Or I do it to you 3 times.
Yeah.
I get you almost unconscious 3 times.
Yeah, yeah. And you struggle back to your feet cross-eyed.
One of the safe things about this sport too is when you get hit so hard that you get dropped like that. In boxing, you would get a 10 count.
Yeah.
But in this sport, the guy has the ability to jump on top of you and keep hitting you.
Yeah.
So the fight's over.
Fight's over, right?
Yep.
Now you're the president of this massive piece of business, a global piece of business. What? First of all, did you ever see that? I mean, this is like the hackiest question ever, but it's just, looking back at the 18, 19-year-old you, did you ever expect that this was where you were going to end up?
No, I don't think when people are so young. I mean, you dream and you have these dreams when you're a kid of certain things, but it's never like I had this ambition or this goal. Like even when we bought the company, it's like, let's make this huge goal. It was never about money. And people always laugh when I say that. But people who really know me, I don't give a fuck about money. I don't care about it. Money is a tool to have fun. And if you look at it any other way, you're fucked up. And I know people that are fucked up that worship money and it's all about money and they would screw people over for money. It's not me. I don't care about it. You're fortunate to have it when you have it, but I've lived without it too. Yeah. I can tell you right now that some of the happier years of my life were when I was fucking broke trying to make it.
Yeah.
It's all about the journey. And it always seems like it's the guys who have money who always downplay having money. You know what I mean? It does. But I'm not that guy. I was fucking broke as a joke.
Yeah.
I was a guy who, when I still talk to my friends, I didn't even have a fucking car.
Yeah.
I used to ride a bike everywhere with this huge hockey bag on my back full of boxing equipment.
Yeah.
That was what I did, and those are some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
It's some of my best moments, and now that I'm like the way that you set it up, you're the president of this global, blah blah blah. So some of the hardcore fans love to bust my balls, and some of the media too will bust my balls sometimes about, so you were an aerobics instructor. You were, so they try to make sounding like what I did back then when I used to train people.
Right. Wasn't meaningful.
Like it was a fucking, look at this. I would go back to that tomorrow. Those were some of the best days of my life when I was training people and the relationships that you create when you're doing that. When people lose weight and they see the results, and it's just none of that shit. I mean, it's not like that stuff bothers me. It's part of who I am. It's part of how I got here, and it's been part of my ride.
Where did you get this? Because reading about you and hearing you talk, and I talk a lot about this constantly on my show about like hustle and a work ethic. Where do you feel like that came from in your life? Because you were bounced around a lot. You were raised by a single mom. You obviously had a lot of unsupervised time. Where do you feel like your focus and your hustle came from? You feel like you also said you stopped drinking. You had like a big kind of like an axis change at a certain point.
You're right. And that's exactly when it happened, when I quit drinking. And it was about, here's my philosophy on this. The thing that I've been very lucky in my life with, it isn't the UFC, it isn't all the money and all this stuff. I've earned that. I've gone out and I've done what you don't just fucking sit on the couch and that shit just comes to you. You go out and you got to fucking earn it.
And also you send a lot of shit down the chute that never comes back to you. I mean, to be successful, you throw 100 balls and one hits, but on 99 didn't fucking go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's about how hard the work is once you get it rolling. It's,
yeah, and then it doesn't cruise on its own either.
Fuck no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You have to be in here every day kicking and tweaking this fucking thing. But the one thing where I've been lucky is I've always known what it is that I want to do. And
you've always had that clarity?
Since I was a kid.
Really?
Always known that this is exactly what I wanted to do. And then I went out and got a couple of jobs because there's some people that want to be the fucking president of the United States. There's some people that want to be actors. Some people that want to be the best pop singer ever. It's a fucking dream, and it's breaking down the wall between, not fuck that. I can do this.
Right.
I can go out and do it. And you just got to be willing to say, this is what I want to get up and do every day. I don't give a fuck what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not going out here because I'm going to get in the fight business, and one day I'm going to get a couple of billionaires to buy this fucking company, and I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
That's not what you fucking dream of when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You dream of being and doing what you love to do, right? The problem with our society right now is we've got this thing where, and when you're a kid, it is drilled into your fucking head. If you don't go to college, you're going to be a fucking loser. You're never going to amount to anything. You're going to be the guy digging the ditches across the street. You're going to do this, that. There's all this fucking negativity on why you have to go to college. So if you went to every college campus in this country right now, right, and asked every kid on campus, so what's your major?
Right.
They'd say, well, I'm majoring in political science right now, but I think I'm going to switch to finance and da-da-da-da-da. And they don't know what the fuck they're there for. They don't know why they're there. No. They're there because they've been told that they have to fucking be there or they won't amount to anything. So they don't know what to do. Half of the fucking battle in life is knowing exactly what you want to do.
Right.
And that's where I've been very lucky.
Right. But I also feel like, as an observer and even looking at people that I know, like kids and shit that are like, I have some teenagers in my life. Oh, fucking teenagers. Woof.
Yeah.
I'm like, I look at them like, am I ever that fucking stupid? It's not just knowing what you want to do. It's knowing that to get what you want, you have to work for it.
You gotta go get it.
Yeah, every little idiot on the street's like, I'm going to be a hip hop star. I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to do this. Fuck you. You have to get up every day over and over again and do the work. And I feel like that's the other thing that's the problem with our society right now is that everybody thinks they're going to wake up tomorrow and they're going to be on a reality show.
Right.
You know what I mean? And someone's going to pick them up in a limo. Everybody you see who's as successful as somebody like you is, didn't just work hard every day when they were a bellboy or a boxing trainer or whatever, but still works hard today. You know what I mean? Like, I think generally as a culture, we've lost the concept of the work ethic.
It's true. And it is a lot of work and it looks easy. And I'll give you another example, and a lot of people hate him. And I don't hate on people that like the LeBron thing. LeBron, first of all, I'm a Celtics fan. Okay, so I wanted LeBron to get his ass whooped by the Celtics.
Yeah.
And then once the Celtics were out of it, LeBron is one of these guys who publicly gets fucking smashed every day with nothing but hate and negativity. And you know what he did? He fucking shoved it up everybody's ass.
Yeah.
He went out there and he fucking worked and he did his thing. He didn't get brought down by all the fucking hate. He went out. I couldn't be happier for the guy, and I have a ton of respect for him now. So happy that he won the title this year. Good for him.
Yeah.
Because I became a Durant fan, too. And the Thunder, it's hard not to love that team.
Yeah.
The Thunder, they're just so lovable, these guys, and I became a Thunder fan. I'm not a sports guy.
Right.
I'm a fight guy.
Really? You're not a sports guy
I'm not a fucking sports guy at all.
I would assume that you would just be dominating, like, you just knowing everything about every sport.
Not a sports guy, man. I'm a fight guy, and that's it. I live in the UFC bubble. But every once in a while, there's storylines in life and in sports and in other things that will break out of the basketball NBA mold and draw other people in. And I'm one of those guys that got drawn in by the whole how old the Celtics team were, but they were in the running and they looked like they might win the title this year. The Thunder, this lovable team that you'd want to see win, and the LeBron James story, and you know, I love guys who overcome such hate and everything. The other like the Kardashians, right?
Yeah.
The Kardashians. I got asked today, and now I'm pissed now that I'm here talking to you, and I just thought about this. But they asked me to rank the top 5 promoters of all time, from P.T. Barnum to Vince McMahon, Don King, myself. But you know who should be in there? Fucking Mama Kardashian.
I co-sign that like a mother. I will co-sign that right now. Yeah.
If she isn't one of the top 5 promoters of all time, who the fuck is?
Seriously.
This lady took fucking nothing and turned it into fucking more than something.
I mean, multimillionaires, all of them.
And it doesn't stop. She is a fantastic promoter, but those girls fucking work, man. People look outside and think they just got a fucking reality show and they don't do anything. First of all, I've watched. I have a reality show, The Ultimate Fighter.
The Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I see that show. That show's scripted as fuck.
Yeah.
It's completely scripted.
Yeah.
So basically, they're actors. They have to go on there and act and create all these different scenarios to build a fucking television show.
Yeah.
You don't just fucking walk around and a show happens. You have to create a fucking show.
And you understand that now, doing one yourself, how much work it is.
I do these video blogs. Have you ever seen my video blogs?
I haven't watched them yet. No.
I do video blogs, and
we'll make sure to put some links to them.
They do pretty well,
yeah.
right? Well, my fans, UFC fans, are rabid about them. So when I don't put them out, they fucking hammer me. You lazy bastard. Do those video blogs. We want to see them and everything else. Right. It's like they don't realize how much really effort and work goes into those.
It's not like you just sit down for 10 minutes in front of your computer,
I'm just walking around and you guys are entertained by my blogs.
Right.
It's work.
Yeah.
So when I see the stuff that they do, and old Mama Kardashian is probably one of the greatest promoters of all time.
Grinding. I said this. I said this I've said it on this show, I've said it on my television show, that is a family, an entire family that is making a mint off of a shitty sex tape.
Yep.
And I mean, that's why we know who they are. You know what I mean?
There's no doubt
she
about
made a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
She sure did.
For real.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's something like that comes out about your daughter and you're fucking devastated, horrified, and you crawl into a fucking hole and pull the hole in with you.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Whereas she fucking flipped that thing and turned it into the fucking gold mine.
It's crazy.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's awesome. I have no fucking hate for them whatsoever. Good for them.
Right.
You know, and she's done a pretty damn good job of keeping her family together. Nobody's spun out of control and addicted to fucking heroin and hates their mom now. She abused us and made us work too much, and you know they've done a real good job. When you really look at that thing for what it is, it's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, impressive. All right, we were going to get self-inflicted wounds, but I want to ask one quick question that came up earlier, and it's about. This is obviously a huge enterprise, and you've got the television show and season. I haven't memorized. Is it season 4 that just happened
of the Ultimate Fighter? Season 16.
Holy shit! I'm out of my mind.
It's one of the longest running reality shows in history. Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to get pounded for that. And how many guys who come out of that show end up being competitive on the UFC circuit long term?
A lot. It has been the catapult for talent for us. It's been phenomenal. It's been the staple of the fucking UFC, man. It's been incredible.
One nice thing is people get to understand how difficult it is and what a struggle it is to become a competitive MMA fighter, become competitive in the UFC. But I wonder, in the context of making that show, do you have to squeeze the format of UFC into the show? Like, in the sense of, like, do you have to pare away or make it simpler, make it easier? Or is it the opposite, where the show's had to kind of expand to fit?
No, it is what it is. Basically, what the show is about is we take 16 up-and-coming guys, 2 superstar coaches to bring them in and try to make them the next Ultimate Fighter, meaning a guy gets in the UFC. A lot of people, have said, the way that these guys act on the show doesn't represent the sport. They don't represent the sport. These guys aren't.
They're not in the sport.
They're not in the UFC.
Yeah.
These are guys that want to be in the UFC. And at the end, somebody's going to win and win that contract and get in. But normally, we get 4 or 5 guys a season that deserve to be in the UFC.
That's impressive.
So it works. It's an incredible thing for our business.
And it also obviously exposes the sport to a lot of new people that wouldn't
know. Like you said, people get to see how hard they train, what really goes on. They get invested in the characters. It's incredible.
And let's just talk quickly, because we're going to run up against the wall, about the internet, because you just talked about the haters on the internet.
Yeah.
What is your relationship with fans of this sport? I mean, obviously people love you and you're the face of UFC, I think probably as much or more than any of the fighters, because you're the one constant that when guys come in, they retire, whatever, you're always here. Do you battle with your fans? Are you actively interacting with them?
Oh yeah. I think that I actually have a very good, healthy relationship with my fans, because with the fans of the UFC and me, there's no bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you follow me on Twitter, right, and I'll explain. I've been ESPN and everybody's criticized me for this a million times, is that I go after people on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's hard not to.
Oh, it's the best part of my fucking day. It's people ask me, why do you do that? Why do I do it? Because it's fun. Are you kidding me?
And also, fuck you. You don't get to say whatever you want.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't get to say whatever you want to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but guess what? Yeah. I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want to you back.
Exactly.
And, it's like, here's the example. You're the head of this sports organization. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't. If somebody walked in here right now and said to you, your fucking podcast sucks. What the fuck makes you think that you should have a podcast? Your movies suck. I can't stand you. Are you going to say, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, sir? You're going to go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't like my shit, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it, and get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
Why would you not say that on Twitter then?
You're right.
You don't get to come on here and say whatever you want. And the thing that I love to do...
And also say it with impunity, because they don't expect you to respond.
Exactly.
You don't think I can fucking hear you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, right now.
Let's
and I'm going to put you on blast immediately.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's talk about your fucking issues there, buddy. and the thing is that the one thing that I love to do is when you got this guy girl, whoever it might be. I try not to attack the girls.
Yeah.
But when a guy comes on and he starts talking shit, the first thing I do, I go right to his picture. All right, let's see who you are that's fucking with me. Right. If you're an egg, you know they got the fucking eggs on there. Okay, you're
exactly.
Beat it. You're a fucking you're the coward who said if you're gonna fuck with me, at least have your picture,
right,
your name, and all your shit.
Responsibility for what you're saying right now.
Be a fucking man and step up and put your name and your fucking picture on there and let's go. And now we can do it.
Half the time when you call people out, they back down immediately. That's why it's funny because I always I don't want to give this person shine. Like I don't want to throw my hundreds of thousands of followers over to their 17 followers. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you know what I mean? Occasionally somebody deserves a beatdown, and 99% of the time they're like, oh, sorry. But it's that cowardice.
And that's usually what it is. It's some people. The internet is the place where cowards live.
Yeah.
That's my fucking, and I got into a huge beef with Anonymous, the Anonymous group.
No, I did not know that. Yeah. Oh, 4chan, tell me.
Fucking huge beef.
What was it about?
These guys. We were supporting the SOPA bill, and it was the for internet piracy, and there's this whole.
Has that been a big issue for UFC?
Yeah, it's an issue for everybody.
Yeah, okay.
It destroyed the music industry.
Well, yeah. Although I think it's interesting. I mean, the music industry was going to get destroyed no matter what, just because of the onslaught of technology. They should have gotten ahead of the wave. You know what I mean? Unfortunately,
agree. Yeah. But a lot of them didn't see that coming.
No,
we learned a lot from the music industry. We saw what happened there, and everybody learned a lot from that. But there's a whole generation of people out there who believe that they should have anything they want for free.
Yeah.
Right? And that is not the way the fucking world works. So we have no problem standing up against it and screaming. Was the SOPA bill perfect? No way. It wasn't even close to being perfect, but it was the only fucking bill out there that protected businesses from the internet.
People pirating
fights,
pirating streams.
Not even fucking pirating. There are scumbags out there who will not only take our fucking stream, but charge people $4.99 for it.
Fuck you.
And sell fucking commercials on it.
Wow, that's pretty outrageous. That's pretty fucking outrageous.
Okay,
yeah.
So we're going after these people and everything else. So the Anonymous group comes after me and literally just fucking blasting me. So they get into go after my home information and put it out there, my social security,
terrifying.
And all these other things. Not terrifying.
No.
Fuck you.
Well,
Take my fucking information.
You had half a high school in your yard waiting to kick your ass, right? So
here's the other thing they do. These guys come on. Have you ever followed and looked into this thing? Look into the Anonymous group and look what they do. They're a bunch of fucking online terrorists. Right, and they've crashed serious shit, bigger fish to fry than me.
Right.
They've gone and broken into government computers and done all these things. They're fucking high level dudes. These are like serious guys. But fuck you.
Yeah.
And what they did is they came and took my site down. They crashed my site, and they said, "Yeah, you want to support SOPA? This is what we'll do." So I got on TV and I said, "Fuck you. Do it again. I dare you to."
Yeah.
At the same time, we were working with the government. We were working with Homeland Security, ICE. And the FBI.
Wow.
And we helped them bust a bunch of these fuckers, right?
Holy shit.
Yeah. So then this whole war starts between me and them and everything. So they start coming on and their thing is their that mask.
Yeah, the
that white mask
logo. Yeah.
Fucking. So they're like, we're watching you and we know where you are. Like all this creepy. You know where I am? I'm in Chicago in a hotel promoting a fight right now. I'm staying at the fucking Ritz downtown.
Right.
Come find me, you fucking 100-pound nerdy fuck. Okay? Come on down here. I'll tell every fucking one of you where I am. Come find me.
Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be mysterious and scary.
Right.
But big businesses, big corporations are afraid of these guys.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not fucking eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
You crash my site, my fans can't read about the fucking what Anderson did today. Okay? We'll get it up fucking tomorrow.
Right.
Give a shit. I'm not going to bow down to you fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing at the beginning of the year this year, that my battle with them. But what did we?
I don't know, but I enjoyed that story so much. I don't know. Yeah. I was just talking about whether you what your relationship is with the internet and.
Oh yeah, with my fans. So yeah, I think I have a great, honest relationship with them, and I'm great with my fans. If fans of the UFC want to. I give them free tickets. I do all kinds of stuff. I do all kinds of fun things.
I've read that about you.
I try to make
generous.
it fun.
Yeah.
It's already fun, the sport, but they even take it to the next level. Right. More access, more, I saw a Laker game last year, and the Lakers won. Mm-hmm. They're going back through the tunnel. All these little kids are reaching their hands through the fence.
Right.
Not one fucking player touched those kids' hands.
It's
How do you fucking not touch the little kids' hands?
Like,
How have you gotten to this level of fucking arrogance and just numbness that you just don't care about your fans anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't think this is going to come to an end?
Right.
You don't think this is going to end for you like it ends for everybody?
Will never be that. As long as I am here running this fucking ship, it will never be that way, man. I have this great relationship with the fans, even the ones that I tell to fuck off, you know?
Right.
The ones that I usually tell to fuck off, start laughing or whatever. Some dude at the press conference the other day says, "You blocked me on Twitter. Unblock me." I said, "Do you know what a dickhead you must be for me to fucking block you on Twitter? You have to be like the biggest dickhead on earth." And he's like, "I didn't even do anything." And he knows he did something, but I unblocked him anyway, you know?
That was nice of you to remember.
It's just, we did it right there, so I would do it, you know what I mean?
Hilarious.
But, you know, it's all good. It's all fun. It's all fun. I mean, even the hate that you get, it's all in fun. It's some guy trying to, you know, do his thing. And whatever.
You know, I mean, the internet abides. You know what I mean? It's the hate will. Okay, so let's do self-inflicted wounds because you're a busy man. You have a huge week. Not only is it 148 this weekend, but it's like International Fight Weekend.
It's an International Fight Week, and the Expo is here this weekend. The impact on this city of Las Vegas for this week, for the UFC being here this week, is $93 million.
Holy shit.
$93 million.
That's got to feel good. Can you walk around, like tonight or tomorrow, can you just walk around like a normal person or do you get mobbed?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not that dude either. I don't go hide in my room. Like I said, I love hanging with the fans and talking to the fans. Think about this. I've been in this sport that I've been trying to get, you know, sanctioned all over the world for the last 11 years.
Yeah.
Do you know how many fucking people I talk to that hate this sport and like da-da-da-da? Why would I not want to talk to the people who love it just as much as I do?
Of course.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I'm one of those people who wants to always have a normal life. Like I never want to be the person who can't get their own groceries or won't get their own cup. I mean, you know,
these people that go out and get mobbed and they're all hiding and running around. You create that yourself.
Yeah, you do. You're absolutely right.
You create that. Surround yourself with bodyguards and make a big scene when you walk through. Throw money around, do all this. You could act like a jackass, and you could create that. I'm a slave to
my fame. Yeah.
If you let yourself be, yes, you will be.
Yeah. All right. So let's do self-inflicted wounds.
Cool.
Do you have a story that you're excited about?
I don't know. You know, I mean, there's obviously drunken moments that I wish you could take back, you know, but the next day when you wake up. But I would have to say probably the weird, and I'm not saying this is a self-inflicted wound, it's just one of the craziest things that happened to me. You know, I have, as far as being a speaker, I've spoke everywhere. I speak every year at Bill Gates CEO Summit to the top CEOs in the world. I speak at I spoke at Oxford University.
Wow.
I spoke at Harvard. I spoke at University of Miami. I mean, the list goes on and on of the things that I've done. When we first bought this company and we were going for sanctioning here in Nevada, one of the first of all, we go there, me and Lorenzo show up. Our attorney's there. Our attorney's going to handle everything. We don't even have nothing. It's a done deal. Yeah. So he's going to get up, he'll speak, we'll go through this whole process. One of the commissioners out of the fucking blue calls me up for some reason. I get up there.
This is beforehand. Calls you up on the stage. Okay.
On the stand. This room is packed wall to wall with people, media, everything else. I walk up there. It's a female commissioner. She asked me a question. I started to answer the question by saying, Zuffa LLC is a Nevada company. And then I just froze.
Ooh.
When I say I froze, all the commissioners were looking at each other. The room, I could hear the room talking behind me. People were like, somebody literally had to walk up, grab me, and bring me back to my seat.
Oh, really? You couldn't finish?
Sat me down, and my partner Lorenzo looks at me and goes, "What the fuck was that?" I go, "I have no idea."
Really?
Completely froze. Like they had to get a fucking dolly up there and fucking wheel me out.
And to this day, do you have any sense of what happened? Were you nervous? Were you scared?
No clue. No clue.
Wow.
But that's a pretty embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And this is the moment where essentially the
I'm
the
a
sport
fucking
is about
promoter. I'm supposed to be out selling fights and doing this and that and everything else. And I go up to talk and I fucking froze. Literally froze and shut down.
Wow. And has that ever happened since then?
Never. Never happened to me again after that.
That's amazing. This is the last question I'm asking. We really have to go, and I know you have to go, and you're incredibly scheduled. Has a fan ever tried to fight you?
Never.
No one's ever run up
Never.
and challenged
That's
you
one
to
of the things
fight?
too. All the shit on the internet, all the stuff that people talk. I've never ever had a personal, face-to-face bad situation with a fan ever.
That's amazing. I would
Ever.
think that there'd be like 1% of the fans would just be wanting to challenge you to a fight.
Never. Nobody's ever, not even challenged me to a fight. Nobody's ever even been a dick or a douchebag anytime I've ever met a fan.
Wow.
Every fan I've ever met has been cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. This was awesome. This was so great. I've been wanting to do this for such a long time. I'm so glad that you did it.
No, it's my pleasure.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
I'm honored.
And thank you so much for all
Thank
your
you.
time. Woohoo.
But I had, a single mom, and I was home alone a lot, and idle time and alone time
Yeah.
is not a good
Idle
thing.
hands,
So
yeah.
I had a lot of parties at my house and hang out with friends. And Las Vegas, it's weird, but Las Vegas was one of these cities where you did fight a lot when you were growing up here.
Really?
It was like this school versus school thing. Like all the
Really?
schools, there were a couple of schools that got along with each other, but other than that, all the schools fought with each other here.
Like organized scraps, like meet after school on the playground.
Yeah,
kind of thing?
oh yeah, definitely. Meet at the playground or meet at the park. There was a lot of fighting here in Vegas growing up. Definitely.
Were you in the middle of it, or?
Yeah, I was in the middle of a lot of it. Like crazy stuff. One time, there was a school. I went to Bishop Gorman. Mm-hmm. I got kicked out of that school twice, but that's where I went to high school here. And
Rock
then
and roll.
I went to, there was a school called Valley, still here, Valley. And we got into this huge fight one night out in front of my house with a couple of guys from Valley. Next thing you know, every kid from the school was in my front yard trying to get into my house and kill me.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Shit.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I was probably 14.
Okay, so what are you thinking at this point? First of all, how many people do you have on your side?
There was only like 4 of us in my house.
And there's
like every dude from, and girls too. I mean, there was like half of Valley High School was out on my front lawn, and I was on the roof. And we were throwing like bricks at them and stuff from the roof.
So what do you...
That kind of crazy stuff.
Oh, shit.
Now you could break my arm.
Ooh.
You could choke me out. You being a woman can do that. That's the real cool thing. And most of the positions are the rape position.
Really?
Where you have the most submissions available to you
Is it when you're on the bottom?
Is when you're on the bottom in the rape position.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is that
where
what they
you
call it in fighting, the rape position?
No, but it is
Yeah.
it's called the guard,
Right.
is what it's called, but it is the rape position. If a woman, it's a vulnerable position for a woman, but not one that knows jujitsu.
Wow.
So if you know jujitsu and you just get the average guy on the street, average, criminal Joe rapist guy,
Right, yeah,
that
like
gets-
5'10",
you
5'8",
will
160.
guaranteed choke his ass out unconscious.
I have, Dana, tiny little girl boner right now. I want to talk more about how you got into jiu-jitsu, but I want to go back to talk about who you were before UFC a little bit. You're awesome. You talk and you tell your story, which is great. But you never told it here, and I want to hear a little more about it.
Cool.
You were born in New England?
Yes, I was born in New England, the Boston area.
Yeah.
And we lived there till I was in about 3rd grade, and then we moved out to Las Vegas. My mother was a nurse. I had a single mom who was a nurse, and they were paying nurses more here than anywhere else in the country, so we moved to Las Vegas.
And but you moved a lot. I mean, I feel like I read that you went back and forth a lot. Or did you move to Vegas and stay here till you got...
Yeah, well, I was in Vegas for a long time, but being from the East Coast, I had a lot of relatives on the East Coast. I had family that lived in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, so I spent a lot of time on the East Coast growing up, too. So I was very fortunate in that I grew up in Vegas. Thank God, I'm glad that I grew up here. But I also was lucky enough to have a lot of East Coast influence, too.
Why do you say, thank God you grew up here?
Because everything that I am, I love the city of Las Vegas. I'm one of these guys who's been fortunate enough to travel all over the world. You name the major city destination on this planet, and I have been there, with the exception of China, which I'm going in September.
Sweet.
And no matter where I am or how great it is, every time I'm like, fucking glad to be back in Vegas, man, because this is my city. This city doesn't sleep. There's always something to do 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's full of energy and excitement and fun, and I love it here.
Well, also it's a place where one can make oneself. I mean, you're the epitome of a self-made man in every way. I think this is a place where you can see opportunity, you can exploit it, and every city's not like that.
It's a very good point. The reality is that on the East Coast, there's a lot of old money. Mm-hmm. You don't see a lot of people break through on the East Coast and become, wealthy or it doesn't happen a lot. But on the West Coast, Los Angeles, Southern Cal, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens here every day.
Did you fight a lot when you were a kid? Were you a good kid or were you?
No, I was a bad kid. I was a bad kid in that.
But I feel like I'm the kind of fan where when I'm watching it, I'm into it, but I'm not I don't know enough about it.
You're not engaged 24/7.
Yeah, and I need to be because I love it. You'll watch 10 fights will be awesome. You'll watch one fight and you'll be like, oh, the elbow to the head so many times. I need a hug.
Right. Well, what would really push you over? I mean, you watch it on TV and you like it. If you've ever get the opportunity to train with a real jiu-jitsu guy.
I would totally love to do that.
It would blow your mind. It's literally how I got involved in mixed martial arts. I came from boxing and I got introduced to the sport through jiu-jitsu. And it literally, it was like taking, I don't remember if it was the red or the blue pill in the Matrix, but it opened my eyes.
It was the red pill that opened your eyes.
The red pill opened my eyes to a whole new world.
Come to me for your nerd answers.
Yeah. I literally, after I took my first jiu-jitsu lesson, I was like, how the fuck have I walked around for 30 years and not known this?
Really?
That another human being could do this to you if you ended up on the ground.
Right.
It's so amazing. And the cool thing about it is it's not about power. It's not like I'm a man, you're a woman.
Right.
So if if we go to the ground together, it's about technique.
Yeah.
The reality is you being a woman and you got a long body.
I have a reach, which I use to run away from people generally.
Well, it's actually, the long body is very good in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? And you catch a guy like me or anybody else in the move, it's your technique that's going to win, not me overpowering you with strength. And you could actually tap me out. Cool.
Welcome to the show. Super excited. Super excited. I want to say right at the top of the show that I am a fan, but I'm not one of those fans who knows a lot. You know what I mean? So I want to say in advance for all your fans that are listening, fuck you. I don't know everything about UFC.
Oh yeah, and trust me, they'll get all over your shit.
Right?
She doesn't know anything about that. Our fans are brutal.
I'm gonna admit it right up front. Go fuck yourself. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear it. I love the fights that I watch. Yeah. But
But that's cool. Listen, we have different types of fans in the fight business. There's the fans that are the hardcores, the ones that would say this chick has no idea what she's talking about. Then we got the fans that on a big fight like this weekend, they'll hear the buzz and they'll tune in. Right. The casual fan that'll, stop on FX or one of the other channels and watch the UFC. But we welcome all fans,
no
matter how hardcore or how often you pop in.
And I want to be the conduit for people who are interested, but maybe aren't watching every fight. Guys who are interested or women who are interested but want to know more about it, because I feel like there's I'll tell you really quickly a story about me, which is that the way I got into UFC was that I did a movie that was essentially, it was a really stunt heavy. And it was me and 11 guys living in a hotel for 2 months. And we had a lot of time on our hands. We were in South Carolina with nothing to do. And all we did was watch UFC. Every weekend we'd buy a fight. We'd get the hotel to buy a fight. We'd go to a bar. People had fights that they had recorded. We'd watch them back.
That's awesome.
Which was killer. And I learned a lot.